You will face the most incredible pain you've ever encountered. I promise you that it's inevitable. And you know what? Life doesn't give you a warning. You'll find yourself at the top of your own cliff wondering how you got there, whether it's loss of a loved one, a disease, a divorce, loss of a job, or you're striving with depression, addiction, isolation. It will happen. The detailed circumstances for each person will be different, but the pain will be real. So let me ask you this. If pain is inevitable, does it have to be a bad thing? What if the most unbearable pain you've ever faced is also the gateway to your greatest transformation? When darkness surrounds you and there seems to be no way out, what are you going to do? Are you prepared? Do you have the tools, the systems, the beliefs to face the storm and make it through? And could you somehow transform that darkness into light? Today, I'm going to share with you a deeply personal story. The moment I stood on the cliffs of Corsica and seeing that everything I had built was slipping away, and how one simple thing I did helped me survive that storm and rebuild my life, and how it was the beginning of the 7 pillars, a journey that transformed my life. Now look, I did not see the crisis coming. I had followed society's blueprint for success. I had a beautiful family, thriving career, more financial stability than I could ever dreamed of. Yet despite all of that, I found myself at the brink of collapse. I thought I had it all, but none of it could protect me from what was about to hit me. But before I share my story, I just want to clarify one thing. This channel isn't just about success hacks or the latest trends or fads. It's about raw, real-life transformation. I'm not here to tell you a fairy tale. I'm not here to repeat what other YouTubers are saying. I'm here to just share the tools, the framework, and the personal stories and the lessons that I learned that got me through the darkest chapter of my life. So look, to be honest, I had no idea what to do next. All I knew was that the pain I felt was so profound and deep, and I was lost. I mean, without knowing at the time, this was the start of something super profound. So to understand this powerful episode, I have to take you back to that moment where I stood on the edge of the limestone cliffs of Corsica, this beautiful island in the Mediterranean. I remember that day, the sky was this dark blue, the wind was pounding into me, and I could hear the waves hundreds of feet below just crashing violently into the cliff. And in this chaos, I felt this force within me pulling me forward towards the edge of the precipice. I was utterly alone. I was drained physically and emotionally. You see, I had come to Corsica to reflect. I was hoping that the solitude would give me clarity, but instead it magnified my despair. Everything I had worked for, the life I'd built, it just seemed like it was slipping away. I stood there with my phone in my hand, and I remember looking at the screen after that final call, and it just shattered the last shreds of hope that I could rebuild my family. And I just wanted to scream. I wanted to get answers to the world around me. It was just silent. So it was in that moment, standing on the edge of the cliff, that something profound happened. I felt pain, anger, and thoughts were just swirling in my mind. I stood there, top of the cliff, and the wind was just hammering into me. And I looked down at the rocks and the waves down below smashing into the cliff, and I felt this intense pain just coming from within. And I had all these questions. Why? Where had I gone wrong? And I didn't want to accept that the life I had built had to be completely changed. I was completely in denial. I was fighting reality. So I just stood there. I can't remember how long. I had nowhere to go, nothing to do. And all I had was these unanswered questions. The truth is, my prior family life was coming to an end. There were no more options, no more second chances. This life I had constructed brick by brick was just crumbling before my eyes. The cliff I stood on became a metaphor for my life, a precipice between who I was and who I would somehow need to become. So as time passed, I just stood there in silence. Just slowly my mind was quieting down. My heart, which had been pounding in my chest, started to slow down. The worries that were consuming me before, about my reputation, material success, none of that mattered in that moment. The only thing I wanted was to rebuild a new life where I could be close to my children and feel joy and inspiration again. That moment, I felt stripped of all the noise, all the distractions, and I was forced to face the truth. I had lost sight of what truly mattered. And I saw clearly that my life could spiral down. I was on the edge. This could be my undoing. I needed something to pull me forward as the storm was going to hit. And in that moment, I looked to the sea. I looked to the earth below my feet. And somehow from deep within, a voice came through. And at that moment, I did something that changed me. I made a promise. I looked up to the sky and I promised myself that I would fight no matter how hard things got. I promised that I would rebuild my life. I would build a new path, a new way, and that I would find a new sense of purpose for my life. This promise was not a goal. It was deeper. It was a commitment to myself that I would keep going no matter how many times I fell. It was a deep belief that despite the pain I was going to encounter, if I kept to my promise, if I would never give up, despite the pain, in the end, a new and better life awaited ahead. And this promise would give me the strength to make it through this pain, make it through the storms that I was about to face. Without belief, without this promise to myself, I knew I would probably fail. So I said out loud, I promise. That promise, that day on the cliffs, became my compass. It was what kept me going on the darkest days. Without belief in a better future, there is no fight left. Without commitment, we collapse. I had to believe not just the promise itself, but in my ability to transform my life. And you know what? You can do the same. You can make your own promise that pulls you forward. Your promise, of course, is going to be different from mine, of course. Maybe it's about starting a new path. Maybe it's about rebuilding a relationship, pursuing a passion that you've ignored for years. Whatever it is, write that down. Make it tangible. Make it your compass and commit to it no matter what life throws at you. Look, this was just the beginning. The future videos, I'll take you through the framework that I built called the 7 pillars. But life is complicated. I need to take you on a journey. I will share with you what I learned, what I experienced, and the tools that I built. But for me, the first step was to make this promise. So make your own promise to yourself. Write it down. Carry it with you. This journey isn't easy, but trust me, there is light ahead. Let me leave you with a closing quote. The Japanese author Haruki Murakami once wrote, "Once the storm is over, you won't remember how you made it through. But one thing is certain, when you come out of the storm, you won't be the same person who walked in." That's what this storm is all about. Make sure you click the subscribe button so you're notified when the next video comes out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in a future video.